Hello, friends, and welcome to Coach Cut's Corner. Streaming bright from Michigan's capital city, this podcast is dedicated to helping you better understand the who, the what, and the why of mental performance, personal growth, and Lansing Stars baseball. Coach Cut's Corner, brought to you by Eyewash.
In collaboration with Lansing Community College.
And now here's your host, Stephen Cutter.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in and subscribing. Each week I provide insights into our program and hope to inspire you to challenge yourself, ultimately helping you enhance your life just as I have mine. Additionally, I offer mental skills coaching to athletes across all levels from youth to the professional, and you can find out more at coachcutter.com. Just a little while ago, I was on Brian Cain's Mental Performance Mastery podcast. It really was a full circle moment for me. I wanted to share a bit of my journey today and what led me into coaching, and also share a little bit about the belief circle that I teach and I talk about. Your beliefs dictate your actions, which then dictate your results. Those stack on top of each other in a circle that never really ends. I was a high school athlete and I enjoyed sports. I played for a lot of different reasons, but I played because it provided me with significance and it was something that I was okay at. I went to college and I did the same. I played both basketball and baseball in college, and at some point, right around my junior year, I decided I no longer wanted to be an athlete or a student athlete and went into the business world. And through that process of about 15 years, I was an entrepreneur and I owned several different businesses. And for all intents and purposes, I was living my dream, or so I thought. I began coaching because of our oldest child, Alec. My wife and I have 4 children, and I coached him in football, basketball, and baseball. I became a board member to help with the organizations that I coached in, and I remember enjoying those times very much back at Pine Park. That's really where it all started. That's also where the field work started. I was coaching a youth all-star baseball team, and this is where I found out about how impactful words can be. I had some parents come up to me after a practice, and they said some really positive words about what I had done in that practice for those kids. And it just kind of stuck with me and said, oh, maybe I am okay at this. Maybe I need to work a little bit harder at this. And it made me think I could do something with coaching. So my belief, that belief circle that I talk about, my belief grew, and so did my actions. And the results are the last thing in that belief circle. And those results, those eventually came too. I spent a lot of time preparing for those Little League practices and games. And one day I remember very clearly, I was in my business office and I'd spent quite a bit of time preparing for that all-star practice that was coming up that day. And I looked at the clock and it was late into the afternoon and I had been there since the early morning hours. And that's kind of when I knew that coaching might be something that I wanted to do on a little more intentional basis. So I went home that night, and crazy enough, I sat my wife down on our couch and I said, I think I want to go into coaching baseball full time. And I really didn't know what that meant, but I think she probably really didn't know what that meant either. And it was one of those things where it was going to end up being a huge paradigm shift, not only in our family, but in our lives, in the houses that we lived in, the communities, and everything else. So I searched out one of our neighbors. He was a scout for the New York Yankees and had played professional baseball. He ran a travel organization. His name was Bob Cavanaugh, and I set up a meeting with him. I met him in his garage, and I told him what my dreams were. And I remember him smiling and giving me a lot of advice, which I still remember to this day. And he said that I should probably go back to college and get the degree that I left behind when I left. And he said that I needed to become a high school baseball coach. And I remember asking him, well, what type of money do high school coaches make? And he told me, and I was shocked because that was nowhere near what, a average median salary is. Most high school coaches are also teachers. Some are retired, but very few are just high school coaches. I didn't know that at the time. So after that meeting, I went home and I did one of my very first funnels and kind of laid out what the costs would be. And through that funnel, money ended up being the biggest cost of following this dream that I had. And when I really thought about it, I thought, I can't take the money with me, but I can potentially leave an impact, and most importantly, do something that I believe that I really love. And the journey marched on. I researched coaching, and I wanted to be different. Yogi Berra had a quote that said baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical. I began to study the mental game because I knew it was different and it wasn't being taught. It wasn't mainstream. And I studied people like Ken Revisa, Harvey Dorfman, and that's where I discovered Brian Cain. And our relationship began to grow very slowly. I started as a high school JV assistant coach. I coached a travel team with the West Michigan Riptide. We had some success. The belief grew, and so once the belief continued to grow, so did the action. And I began to take massive action. I was given lessons at a facility called Extra Innings, first just 1 or 2, and then eventually grew into 30 hours per week. I met a guy there by the name of Walt Gakowski. He saw me there giving a lesson. He messaged me on Twitter a few days later. They had a coaching opening with the Clippers, and I jumped on it. What that meant was a summer away from home, 3 or 4 days at a time on the road. And I was able to learn a lot, not only from Walt and the Clippers organization, but also just from the college players that we coached. My belief grew, and therefore my action continued to grow. I became a high school head coach at North Muskegon, which is an amazing city, and really took our family in. By this time, this was our family's third house in the last 6 years. I was working 2 other jobs when I was a high school level head coach, trying to make the dream manageable for a family, a wife, 4 kids. And they involved a lot of pickups. Those pickups, I remember I was working for 2 men in a truck, driving a truck, picking up people's stuff and moving it. I was also working for a funeral home, picking up deceased. And I remember how humbling those times were because it was challenging and I was just trying to keep the dream alive. Money was tight, stress was high, doubts crept in, and I was trying to figure out if I was doing the right thing. Many of those costs that I'd planned for in the funnel had happened. Many I was unaware of that did happen. I knew I'd need to get to the college level to have a chance at making a living doing what I love. Getting there as a head coach was more challenging than one would think. I was still coaching summer ball. That journey took me all over the Midwest, even making a stop in the weird and wild summer of 2020 in Traverse City in the Northwoods League. It was there that I coached the 4th and 5th round picks of the Los Angeles Dodgers. The 5th rounder was Gavin Stone. He was a starter this season for the World Series champs, the Dodgers. I was super thankful for the Whitecaps organization believing in me, and also Josh Rebant. At that time, I was applying to places all over the country at the college level. Just one called, and it was a Division II school. I was a finalist, one of 2 remaining. I was coaching that summer too with the Muskegon Clippers, which ended up at that time, I didn't know it, but it was going to be my last with them. I showed up to a game after my interview at the Division II school. I changed in my truck from a suit to baseball pants and a uniform and a hat, which definitely makes me think of how many hats coaches wear. I found out a few days later I didn't get the job. I remember being lost, broken, and pretty much wanted to give up. My wife was the one that told me I'd worked too hard to give up on the dream. I just didn't know if I could keep going on with what I was doing with the funeral home lessons, 2 Men in a Truck, high school baseball, just trying to make it all work. Later that summer, coaching with the Clips, we had a couple players on the team by the name of Shane Jude and Chase Bassard. They were LCC stars. Shane really had a tough summer that year, and I remember we built a pretty special relationship through all of the adversity. Maybe because I was experiencing some internal and he was experiencing external. He and Chase were talking one hot July night at Marshfield about their coach leaving here at LCC. The next steps took some time, but felt like they moved by in 24 hours. Nicole Waters interviewed along with another panel, and she was the interim athletic director at that time. She was right before Greg Laddick moved into his position. She really took a chance. I was hired in the fall of August of 2021, and my dream had become a reality. I kept stacking and was so thankful for all the fingerprints that were put on me and also my family. Belief is the single most important thing. We get to choose our hard. I chose mine. It's been humbling, but so worth it. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm complacent with anything that I'm doing. There's not a day that I believe that I've made it. There's not a day that I believe that I know everything there is to know. I love coaching and adding values to others' dreams. My mission is to build an environment for people to do their best work, and I do that on a daily basis. I absolutely love adding value to people, and I get to work on those goals every day, and I keep stacking that action, and the results and the belief keep growing. You want to work on your dream? Give me a call. I'm happy to show you what funnels and matrices look like. Thank you for listening. Keep dreaming and keep stacking. None of us are perfect, but maybe, just maybe, we can all do just a little bit more. See you down the road. Coach Cut's Corner is recorded live in the WLNZ studios. Engineering and production assistance are provided by Dedalia and Lowry. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please share it and follow us on all the platforms of social media. You can find more about our program at lccstars.com, and donations to our baseball program can be made at the same site. See you next time.